You can run any Gen AI model connected to the data and connected to the APIs that you have in your company, but you need to make sure that you have a rack architecture like that. And one of the things that we decided in Telefónica is that we weren't going to create an LLM or whatever. Today, with this architecture, we are able to use all of them. Hello, hackers. How are you? Good, 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 good. Well, it's not fair. You were receiving gifts, ball, talking about soccer, and right now I'm going to talk about technology. It's not fair for me. I'm sorry, and I'm sorry for you. But I learned something because when I was listening to the question, I realized that Manchester City has more Premier League titles than Real Madrid, and this is something that we need to fix. This is maybe for the future. So thank you for being here in this talk. My name is Chema Alonso, and I'm going to talk about not cybersecurity, well, at least a little about cybersecurity. I'm going to talk about the digital transformation that we did in Telefónica, that we are still doing, and it's a complex success for us, especially because I took responsibility for that almost 10 years ago, and I'm still working in Telefónica, which is the first reason because I believe that it's working, because if not, probably I was fired before. And I'm going to tell you a little story about this period of time. So first of all, who am I? I'm a technical guy. I was doing my studies in computer science. In that picture, I'm the one on the right. That's the image that I have when I was 24 years in the university. And I did all my career in cybersecurity and hacking techniques. I spent my whole life after the university working in hacking techniques. Actually, I wasn't a teenager looking for hacking techniques or VBS or something like that. Not at all. I loved coding. I started to code when I was 12, and I was learning everything I could about programming and about databases. It was my first love, databases. Actually, when I left the university, the only subject that I never studied was security, because at that time it was an option, and I decided not to take that option. So I focused in databases. After that, I started to work in doing Oracle tuning. Do you know that? Removing indices, looking for the wrong structure, the wrong inner joins, etc. And one wonderful thing happened at that time in my life, which was that one hacker with the nickname of Rainforest Puppy published 25th of December 1998 the first document about SQL injection queries. And it's amazing at that time, because with only this small SQL query, you could bypass a web security login. And it was amazing, because I was doing these big SQL queries at that time. So I fall in love immediately with hacking techniques, and I started to research in SQL injection. I published a lot of documents, tools, etc., and I was doing that in all the hacking conferences worldwide. So I started to, when I left the university, I ran my own company, not because I wanted to create a startup, it's because I wanted to have a job. That's the only reason. And I created that company with my friend from the neighborhood. And after 12 years working in that company, it was quite a nice company. We were 50 people, and we were doing publishing hacking tools, selling cybersecurity, pen testing, ethical hacking, all that kind of services. When this profession was still creating, because at that time there were only one role for cybersecurity, not too many as we have today. And in one of those conferences, I had in front of me one very special person. Today, that person is the chairman of Telefónica, and that person was today the chairman of the GSMA, which is the global organization of the telco industry. I was delivering a talk in front of him in 2010, explaining how to hack a website and get control of the backend through a printer. It was quite simple at that time. And he said, okay, I want you to be part of Telefónica. I want to hire you, and I want you to create the cybersecurity business for Telefónica. And I said, look, I'm very happy. I'm working with Microsoft. I'm a Microsoft MVP. I'm delivering a hacking conference in DEF CON, in Black Hat. My life is what I wanted to be, my life to be. So you don't have enough money to make me work for Telefónica. And I was wrong, because things that are not fixed with money are fixed with a lot of money. So that man acquired my company, and I joined Telefónica at that moment. It was in 2012, and at that time, we rebranded the company, and we configured British name, because at that time, it was a Spanish name of the company. Remember, I was just looking for a job, not looking for a startup. I joined Telefónica, and I started to run the cybersecurity business. The company was called 11 Paths, and I was very excited because I had the opportunity of creating something from scratch, creating products, technologies, etc. So I went to the chief technology officer, the CTO of Telefónica, the man in charge of the network, which is that guy on the right side. It's Enrique Blanco, 35 years on Telefónica, PhD in physics, so total factotum in the network industry. And I said, okay, Enrique, I really love the opportunity of being here. Let's do things like hacker, quick and dirty tests, let's deploy a lot of things, etc. And he said, okay, guy, you are going to be 10 years of internship in Telefónica, because we don't do things quick and dirty. We deploy network. We open the street, we put the wire, we close the street, it's a public infrastructure, blah, blah, blah. And I was 10 years as internship learning from him, which is true, it's a reality. In 2016, Telefónica was discovering that everything was data-driven at that moment. 2004, when big data was created by Google and Facebook at that moment, machine learning was only for small companies. But when cloud computing was available for everyone, publicly available for everyone in 2010, it exploded. So if you were in a data-driven company, you were dead or going to death. So Telefónica decided in 2015 that they wanted to be a data-driven company. And it's a big challenge for a company that had been 100 years, and today is our business, 100 years, creating technology. You can imagine how many legacy systems, how many legacy networks, how many legacy identity providers, services, etc. we had at that company. But we wanted to do the transformation, so the chairman decided to create the role in the chief executive committee of the chief data officer, and I was there looking because I wasn't selected as the chief data officer. And 6 months later, the chairman was looking for a chief data officer that was good in data and at the same time that was good in cybersecurity, because they were very worried about cybersecurity. And that was the reason because I became the chief data officer, not because I was good in databases, which is true, I was learning databases all my life, but because the Telefónica chairman was worried about cybersecurity. And since that day, I'm sleeping a little worse, you can imagine. So I started the role of chief data officer in 2016, and we were with the crazy idea of creating a new Telefónica company. So we wanted to transform the whole Telefónica system in one and only one operating system to create digital services. We called at that time that digital transformation the fourth platform, because we were seeing Telefónica as a 3-platform company with physical assets with IT systems for billing, for managing customers, etc. And third, a platform for digital services. And we were looking for the platform to be able to create technology in a digital space. So I wanted to explain the strategy to everyone in Telefónica. This is an internal video that we produced in 2016, and I would like to show the video here because he's going to explain it better than me.
As you know, Telefónica possesses a wide range of technologies, services, and applications. Our three main platforms are different from country to country, and this involves a great complexity. Each of these platforms is generating data, but each one uses its own data models and manages the data in a different way. It's as if each one is speaking its own language. And this doesn't seem very efficient for a data-centric company, does it? With the digitalization work that we've done on these three platforms in the recent years, we've achieved an ecosystem of very robust platforms that offer excellent digital services. But this isn't enough. Our clients are asking for even more. In order to achieve the speed and agility that our clients are demanding, it's important that all our technology within Telefónica speaks the same data language. By this, we mean that each piece of data, be it a client's name or physical identifier, an antenna's signal, or the position of a mobile device connected to our network, is stored and processed in exactly the same way in every part of the group. To do this, we've been working with big data teams to build the fourth platform, a layer that allows the whole group to speak the same language. Now, I'm not going to go into detail about the fourth platform, but I do want to talk about two of its fundamental parts. Firstly, the Unified Reference Model, the URM. This is the data model with which we store exactly the same information in exactly the same way around the world. But as well as agreeing on how we store the data, we also have to decide how we'll use it. And the common model for working with this data is what we call the fourth platform's API. When we incorporate these pieces, the URM and the API, into all our services, products, and applications, we'll all be speaking the same data language. But what impact does this have? Having built this common layer, we're now capable to build on top of it technology and applications that work globally. And by working globally, we mean that you can build it once, and then they work everywhere across the Telefónica group. You don't have to reinvent the wheel each time, which gives us agility. At an internal level, we can develop things that allow us to generate efficiencies. For example, analytical models that allow us to better manage our network and its deployment, or a churn prediction system. And for our clients, we're able to build things that revolutionize the way we interact with them. For example, services such as our new global app and smart Wi-Fi, or even something as innovative as an artificial intelligence. In summary,
well, in 2016, it was just that, the idea. So today, everything is created. We create that blue,
as you know,
that blue layer, that blue platform that you have there. We have the data, we have the APIs, and it was quite difficult because in every country we have different systems, and we needed to create one single API for the digital services, but in every country, that API was connected to different services. An abstraction layer that we created to do our platform. One of the key things is that at that moment in Europe, we were waiting the GDPR. So having that platform was an opportunity to accomplish the GDPR at the same time that we were doing the digital transformation on Telefónica. The pieces that we have is identity based in OpenOAuth to have a single sign-on for all the digital services in all the companies, open APIs that are internal APIs. We produce the APIs from the systems and from the network and provide that API to the digital services. We have the data normalized, which is good because today we are more than happy of passing that hell of creating the data catalog. I don't know how many of you have been suffering the idea of creating a data catalog. For us, it was painful. But today, with the artificial intelligence, the Gen AI, the RAG architecture, everything is perfect because we did our homework and we have the data. So we deploy globally all the Gen AI models. And of course, we created a privacy by design module based on GDPR. The idea is that we manage the different legal consents that you need to manage in a European company, one of them for legitimate interest, the other one for providing the service, the other one customer or user selected using OpenOAuth to allow the user to decide. So we created that platform. Today, we call that platform Kernel, and everything is created on top of that. I used to do demos connecting to the different countries and analyze how Telefónica is working. And I used to say that if today the cloud goes down, Telefónica goes down, because everything is based on that. Mobile, video, Wi-Fi, and managing phone calls, etc. We are managing everything from cloud. This is the cloud infrastructure of Spain. This is the identity in Germany, in which we manage the OpenOAuth access token. This is the API calls that we receive in Brazil, just to have you a glimpse about how big is this. This is 678 million AP calls per 12 hours. So everything is based on cloud, is the core of our digital transformation. But it wasn't enough for a company like us, because we are not serving that. We are using that to serve other things to our customers. And one of the things that we needed to analyze is what is going to look like the network of the future for Telefónica, for a telco like Telefónica. Because we see that Web3, we saw at that time that Web3 was coming with a lot of blockchain nodes that needs to be protected in the network, massive AI-infused services right now. I don't know if you know that, but TikTok, for instance, 1,000 million customers, they are training their algorithm per user every 8 minutes. It means that they are retraining every 8 minutes 1,000 million algorithms just to make sure that the next video that you are going to be offered, you like it. That's the only target. So we saw a lot of things that are going to be a challenge for us. The US space that allows companies to fly drones through the city, which is something that we are having in Europe. The autonomous car and remote driving car, which is different, because autonomous, you can run the algorithm internally on local in the car, but when you are managing remotely a car, losing connectivity is the last thing that you want. So we were seeing that we needed to deploy new networks with low latency technologies, Wi-Fi 6 and Wi-Fi 7, which is something that we are doing right now in test. Deploy 5G standalone, which is completely different mobile network. We need 5G standalone to be able to have network slicing and allow quality on demand slides for customers. And we need to deploy fiber to the room, which is what we are doing. We put in, here in Spain, you can have fiber not only in the living room, but also in the bathroom, which probably is most used for many of you. Secondly, we need to deploy capabilities in the network to allow edge computing. So we are deploying networks with servers on the edge. Some of those servers are coming from the hyperscaler because are coming from the demands that B2B customers of the hyperscalers are doing, but some others are nodes that we are putting just to allow anyone to decide what service should be run close to the edge, to the endpoint. And the third part, which is the most important, we need to transform our industry and stop the way we are selling services. If you want one amazing service from Telefónica, today or yesterday, you needed to go to one pre-sales commercial guy, which is going to take the notes, it's going to create a project, it's going to send an offer, you're going to apply that offer, and later a set of technical people are going to configure your edge node or whatever that you require, which is not useful for the future of the digital services. So we needed to create a framework for programmable networks. It means control the network through APIs and allow customers to take the services by themselves directly from Telefónica. So we have a lot of wonderful technologies that allow to digital creators to do wonderful experience. This is an example on the left side in which I'm riding a bike, which is very complex, not riding a bike, but riding the bike with a VR device. I'm not seeing the world in front of me. I'm using a webcam. That webcam is capturing the world, sending the image to an edge node through by 5G. Then the image is processed and go back to my VR device just in enough time to allow me to ride the bike. So that's the kind of technologies that we are able to provide today. Not today, it's 2018, I think. But at that moment, if you want that, we needed to create a special project with a lot of engineers to do that. And the other one is 2018, I think, we in the Mobile World Congress have people driving cars from the Barcelona circuit 30 kilometers ago remotely, in real time, and you can drive the car through the circuit. This is something that our industry allows to do. But the problem is that when we go to the digital creators, we have that all of them are working in the developer ecosystem, and they are able to configure everything per user, per application, per service, but the network. Everything that is related to the telco is something like that. Actually, we are working only for rich people. We work for YouTube, for TikTok, for Instagram, for WhatsApp, for Netflix, for big corporations. Why? Because they have scale enough to deal with our complexity. So we needed to destroy this. We needed to stop working for rich people and start working for all the digital innovators, all the digital creators, and do something like this. So let's standardize the APIs in our industry. Let's make sure that the API that Telecom, that Telefónica, that Vodafone are producing are exactly the same, are working in the same way, and for the developer it's only one single line of code. If you want to know if one device is located in the headquarters of one company to protect money transfer, you can do it with one line of code without asking all the telcos. That's the idea of this project. This project is called Open Gateway. It's led by the GSMA. We are 48 big telcos worldwide, T-Mobile, AT&T, Dodge, Vodafone, Telefónica, of course, Intel, so China Unicom is worldwide, and the idea is to standardize. It's an open standard that you can contribute if you want to. It's managed by the Linux Foundation, and it's called Camara. And it's not big enough, because developers only need a very small reduced set of very powerful and quality APIs. And some of them are very powerful for cybersecurity and for fraud reduction, which is something that we are putting a lot of focus. These are 10 APIs that we created in Telefónica, are publicly available. You can use all of them, and you can do a lot of things. And for us, in Telefónica, it was quite simple, because we already have Kernel, which is identity, consent management, API gateway, etc. So for us, it's a layer that we put on top of Telefónica Kernel. And right now, you can do a lot of things. For instance, you can add to any mobile app an extra factor of security just using number verification. The idea is that we, from the network, can verify that that connection to your application is coming from this phone number. You don't need to ask for an SMS to validate that you don't need to do that. It's fully transparent, fully convenient. And it's an extra layer of security that you can add to that. Second one is SIM swap. You know that. It's quite easy to steal the second factor authentication doing a SIM swap, which is I go to the shop and convince to the clerk that I'm the other guy, give me a copy of the SIM card, or I'm moving my SIM card, my phone number from Telefónica to another company, which is a terrible mistake. You do that quickly, in 24 hours, you receive the second factor authentication SMS, the OTPs, and you get access to all the accounts. To protect that, right now, not only big institution, every developer can ask if that mobile has been SIM swapped in the last 24 hours. Actually, for the cybersecurity operation centers, we are providing some consoles in which you protect the phone number of the top executive, and every morning you are analyzing if one of the phone numbers of the chairman or the chief technology officer of the director or whatever has been suffering a SIM swap event. So you do that in a regular basis, and you are creating an extra layer of security for top X. Device status is another quite interesting API. This is very relevant, especially for protecting account stealing from people beyond the frontiers. So it's quite simple. We use that API to know if one device is in roaming or not. It's in another telco which is not the original, and you can create an extra security layer. We are working with the big OTTs here, because if someone is trying to steal your WhatsApp account from another country, it's not going to be possible to do that. The other API is location verification, that you can use it to make sure that you geofence or create an extra security layer for one service, one privileged operation close to a physical place. Also, you can use this API to control your kids, which is good if you have a teenager, which is my case. So, and the last one that I'm going to talk is this, which is blockchain public address. We are connecting phone numbers with public keys, public addresses of different blockchain addresses, just in case that you want to use the phone number as a way to connect to this world. And this is an example of the other API, which is quality on demand. We are in the first version of quality on demand for remote driving. This is not autonomous car. This is in the States for remote driving. And this is also very useful if you want to fly drones on the cities. Right now, we are working in project to create in every big city a network that is not pointing to the streets, it's pointing to the air, because in 5G you need to move to put the right direction for the antennas. So we are doing that. And one of the things that we created a long time ago in Telefónica, and right now is standardized, is that we have the number of devices connected per antenna per every moment in your life. So we are able to predict data population and data coverage for flight of drones. So this is an example in which you want to drive a drone from point A to point B, and later you want to drone that later, and the city changes because it's the rush hour or whatever, so the coverage is going to change dramatically in the city, and probably to go from one point to another point, the straight line is not the best idea because you are going to lose connectivity. So at the same time, we use that for the security documents that you need to fill up, taking into account how many people, how many population is behind, is under the flight of the drone, which is something that Europe is requiring to all the flying drone. This is another example. I'm not going to do it, but it's exactly the same. And the last part that we did it in Telefónica, and this is just as a way of sharing what we did with you, is that we added this rack architecture to the platform, to the kernel, because in the end, if you have the data and you have the API, get it into the GenAI is quite simple. You can run any GenAI model connected to the data and connected to the APIs that you have in your company, but you need to make sure that you have a rack architecture like that. And one of the things that we decided in Telefónica is that we weren't going to create an LLM or whatever. Today, with this architecture, we are able to use all of them. So it's more about selecting if we prefer to use an SLM or an LLM, depending on the cost, depending on the use case, depending if that message is going to be to the customer and could have legal consequences or not, because hallucinations are very dangerous with these models. Actually, if you ask Gemini about myself, about the hacker with the beanie hat, it says that I was in jail for 2 years, which is not true, believe me. It's not true. It's not true. Okay, so if you want to know more about Open Gateway, we have opengateway.telefonica.com, and we have a lot of use cases for anti-fraud, for hardening digital services, etc., and it's available in that direction. And that's all. Enjoy the rest of the day.